It's wrestling time. It is time again for the wrestling. The wrestling has happened. The wrestling is happening. The wrestling will continue to happen because wrestling. Hey everyone, this is Marcus Stewart and welcome to Call It in the Ring. We are going to be talking about Monday Night Raw, the September 3rd show of 2018, taking place in Columbus, Ohio State University. And real quick, if you'd like to listen and subscribe to the show on iTunes, you can do so at Marcus Writes About Games. You can also do the same at Podbean, same name, Marcus Writes About Games, just in case you're looking for alternative methods to listening to this fine show. So, without further ado, let's hop to it. So, first off, Jonathan Coachman is on another assignment. He is, as we speak, deep in the Amazon jungle, searching for the lost city of El Dorado or something. I would actually like for them to come up with different scenarios explaining why Coach is gone every few weeks. I think he has in reality, I think he has another gig for a sports channel or something. I don't know exactly, but I think that's what I've heard. But that's no fun. I want a made up story every week explaining Coach's absence. I want to hear that he is deep in the or high up in the Himalayas searching for the Yeti. He is currently engaging in astronaut training to get to the moon. Whatever it may be, anything that makes Coach a more interesting personality, I am down for. But in his absence means that we get Renee Young once again. She is back on the commentary booth. I'm really happy. Good start to the show already. So we start with Braun Strowman alongside his new friends, Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. And they come out to the ring to address their triple beatdown of the Shield and Braun's apparent heel turn at the end of last week's show. He says that, he knew he would never win the Universal Championship as long as the Shield were around to protect Roman. So he decided to get some backup of his own, which all I could think about was he should have brought back Nicholas. Nicholas should have been the third man or the fourth man, maybe. They've already got history. I guess school just started, so maybe Nicholas wasn't available, but damn it, he should have returned over to Summer and it should have gone after the tag titles. But that's just my thought, doing a bit of armchair booking there. But Drew McIntyre is really happy to be part of a new 3-man band that doesn't suck. He doesn't say that, that's just me. But he's really pleased with his team. And they're just kind of gloating for a while about how they decimated the Shield and how they are now going to take over the WWE. This brings out the Shield, of course, coming out to their old music and not Roman Reigns music with the Shield intro over it, which makes me really, really happy. But before they can really get to the ring, they hop over the barricade and Baron Corbin comes on stage and he ushers out some of the roster to try to stop this 6-man brawl. The Shield fights off a few of them and then eventually surround the ring. Baron Corbin brings out more guys and it becomes a giant, just massive humanity as the roster tries to prevent the beatdown. They are not super successful. The 6-man eventually kind of get into it. But later, the roster manages to remember that they outnumber the Shield like 100 to 1, and they manage to pull them apart, and as well as pull off the villains. There's a great shot where Drew McIntyre is getting pulled to the back, and he's like literally clawing the like entrance wall as he's being dragged into the backstage, and it kind of looks like he's being sucked into a black hole and he's like fighting it. I don't know. It looked really funny and kind of cool. Hot way to start the show. And what I liked is that they go to commercial and like it's still in progress and Cole has to kind of like quickly go like, we gotta go to break, like just kind of like to really sell the like, oh my God, this is happening. We don't know how this is going to end. But don't leave. And I don't think you get enough of that on Raw. So I don't know. That's just something I thought was worth pointing out. We come back from commercial break with the Shield being loaded into the back of a police van because they have been arrested. And Corbin is, ordering them in there. They're yelling, they're mad, and Corbin sends them away. So the Shield are going to jail, which, I'm surprised the cops didn't just assume that they were one of them wearing their tactical gear, or maybe that's the charge, is that they're impersonating police officers, which could be pretty serious considering they've been doing it for about 6 years or so now, almost 6 years. So they're in big trouble, big trouble. This brings us to our first match of the night, which is the Riot Squad versus the Bellas. And the Riot Squad, just seeing them there, because they're the first kind of like new faces that you see after this whole opening segment. And for some reason I thought it'd be kind of cool if the Riot Squad was somehow involved in that, just because they love chaos. They did seem to kind of have a nice little laugh or a bit of enjoyment on their faces watching that, which I liked. A bit of continuity with their characters, but I was like, wouldn't it be cool if the Riot Squad were part of that big melee? Even though they're women, but just because they would be down for that, probably, maybe. But the Riot Squad, and specifically Liv Morgan and the Viking Sarah Logan, are taking on the returning Bella Twins, Nikki and Brie, who get a somewhat obnoxious introduction with JoJo saying that, it's their first match on Raw in 3 years, and that they are the stars of Total Bellas, which will be starting its 8th season or whatever season, new season in the near future. So they get this big overblown intro. And we get a tag match between the two, and it's kind of crazy that the Bellas look like they never left, in that Brie is still relatively awkward in the ring, whereas Nikki is surprisingly competent and solid. And she was before she left. In fact, she got a lot better during her Divas Championship reign that lasted about 6 years. And much to my chagrin, because Brie, I think I said this last week on the SmackDown review, was that Brie has always been the less annoying of the two, but Nikki is the better wrestler. So she's like, so on the microphone, I'd rather listen to Brie, but in the ring, I'd rather watch Nikki. It's kind of funny when you think about that. And to kind of, to back that point up, Brie twice in this match almost hurt herself, for doing the same move. So during the match, she goes for a suicide dive, but it's planned for Sarah to stop her. So the idea is that she's going to go to do the dive, and then Sarah is going to like punch her as she's about to dive out the ring to stop her from doing it. And Brie kind of mistimes it, where she does it and then kind of stops early. So she clearly kind of puts herself in position for Sarah to hit her. And it looks really, really awkward. Like, it looks real bad. So at first I thought she like kind of slipped and kind of got caught in the ropes or something. But she was like clearly kind of hitting the brakes, not so eloquently, to get popped. And then later in the match, towards the end, actually, she goes for another suicide dive, which is supposed to be the real one this time. And her foot catches the middle rope, and she more or less kind of eats it. Like I think Ruby and Liv kind of catch her a bit, so it's not super bad, but it's still really bad. And thankfully, Brie was fine. But yeah, I was just kind of reinforcing, like, yeah, that's right, Brie was never that great in the ring, and probably shouldn't be doing high risk moves like that until she kind of gets her wits about her a bit more. But the Bellas pick up the win with a Rack Attack 2.0. You knew that was gonna happen, and yeah, whatever. I don't think the Bellas are back full time. I'm assuming they're only sticking around until Evolution. But who knows? Could be wrong. We'll see. Baron Corbin is backstage, and he's on the phone with Stephanie McMahon talking about the whole Shield fiasco. Finn Balor walks in and demands a rematch with Baron Corbin, because this is the feud that just will not die. Corbin says, all right, let's do it in the main event tonight. You and I, man to man. And again, why is this still happening? Like, SummerSlam was the perfect way to end this for good. I mean, Finn destroyed Corbin squashed him, and that should have been the end of it, but it's still happening. And I don't know. So let's move on. So Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, remember Chad Gable? He lives. Are being interviewed backstage by Charlie Caruso, and apparently they've decided to become a tag team, and they're really, really excited about it, especially Gable, who says that Roode has always captivated him. I have been captivated by Bobby Roode as well, in the sense that can't take my eyes off the fact that he's still a babyface and not a heel, and it continues to just boggle my mind how horribly miscast he still is. But they'll have to overcome that because they have a match against the Ascension. And this match on paper sounds like a random nothing match, but there is an interesting story being told because the match starts and Chad Gable just goes beast mode. Like, he pretty much becomes mini Brock Lesnar, where he is hitting German suplexes left and right and just on fire here. And Roode eventually gets into the match and he gets kind of dominated by the Ascension, like, pretty badly for a long stretch. And it's not until Gable gets back in that Gable goes beast mode again and just starts throwing them around just without a care, just with ease. And then eventually he picks up the win. So Gable did all the work in the match. And at the pin, Roode has this face, and I think Corey Graves put it perfectly, where he's like, Roode looks like he just won the lottery in terms of like realizing how awesome Chad Gable is as a tag team partner, which makes sense because Chad is a multiple time tag team champion, both on SmackDown Live and in NXT. So I really hope the story for this is that Roode kind of takes advantage of Gable and uses him to get to the top or to the top of the tag team division, and then eventually turns on him, and then that's how we get heel Bobby Roode finally, because that's a very heel Bobby Roode thing to do. So I hope that's what they are setting up here. So, but we'll see. Interesting news stories. Always nice to have some news stories get started. Elias comes out for his weekly concert, and he states that he hates women that hit men. Of course, he's referring to getting slapped by Trish Stratus last week. And he makes fun of Columbus, Ohio, saying that Christopher Columbus would be ashamed to know that his last name is associated with this city, and that he would have never discovered America if he could have foreseen that happening. And then as he rips on the Buckeyes, which I think is the college team, the mascot. He's asking what even is a Buckeye. And he continues to rip on the city for a while and the university until Alexa Bliss interrupts, accompanied by Alicia Fox and Mickie James. And Alexa is the hometown girl, being from Columbus. And she comes out and she starts cutting a face promo saying, don't make fun of my town. This is actually the, not only did I, live and graduate here, but the building itself that we're in is where I had my graduation. And she starts like a Buckeyes, a school chant. And then, of course, the other shoe drops, and she's like, see, these people are idiots. They're zombies. They'll chant for anything. That's why I got out of this town. And, people start booing. They're mad. And she's like, hey, don't get mad at me because you're still stuck here. And I'm the biggest star to ever come out of Columbus. So thank goodness, I should have known better. But I was actually getting worried that they were going to have Alexa just be a face because it's her hometown. And I was like, don't you dare do that. But thankfully, she became Alexa Bliss and did her thing. She eventually starts ripping on Trish. Of course, again, building up to their showdown at Evolution. And eventually, Ronda Rousey and Natalya interrupt and kind of get them out the ring because Alexa is having a match next against Natty. And it's a fine match, it's nothing really special. The only thing I've noted is that Alexa beats Natalya using Ronda Rousey's armbar to kind of, rub it in Ronda's face. After the match, Ronda goes in to check on Natalya, and then Alexa tries to attack her from behind. It doesn't work so well. She gets punched for her efforts, but Alicia Fox comes in to help out, and then Alicia, as is becoming her custom, just gets ragdolled by Ronda. Like she does those like arm, like those judo throws, and she is like literally just slinging Alicia around like she's nothing, and it looks awesome. But eventually Alexa uses that to her advantage to kind of get some licks in on Ronda, but Ronda is barely able to fend off the villains. So Alexa, it's weird that Alexa kind of has two feuds right now because she's focusing on Trish, but she also has her rematch for the title at I believe at Hell in a Cell. I can't remember if they said that or not. I think they did last week, but so it's kind of another highlight of kind of WWE's scatterbrained storytelling right now because they're building towards 3 shows simultaneously, and we'll kind of touch more on that a little bit later. Next up, we get an update on the Shield. So Mike Rome, who is one of the interviewer guys, is on Twitter, who is apparently on the scene at the police precinct, and he sends out a tweet saying that the Shield have been processed and fingerprinted. Yes, they have been taken to a preschool class, and their charge is being fingerprinted to the highest extent of the law by the most judicial 4-year-olds in the Ohio Columbus County. Yep. Apparently that's how it works up there. Don't tell me. I'm a Floridian. We have our own craziness here. So anyway, this leads to Baron Corbin. He's backstage. He wants his Rolex watch cleaned. And this brings in Braun and D&D, Dolph and Drew. And they want competition. And particularly Drew and Dolph say that they want a tag team title match. Baron informs them that there's already a tag team title match scheduled for later that night between the Revival challenging the B team. And Drew and Dolph insinuate, they ask, hey, so you're saying that as long as the Revival are in the picture, we can't get a shot tonight? And Baron says no. And they say, well, what if the Revival, what if something were to happen to them? Like, what if they were unable to compete? What would happen? And Baron says, well, I would have to reschedule some things and change, potentially find new challengers. And Dolph and Drew leave. They're like, oh, okay, so you can probably see what's coming here. And then Braun gets in Corbin's face and warns him that he wants competition tonight and that Corbin better do his job and deliver. This leads to the Revival backstage. They are being interviewed and they are immediately attacked by Drew and Dolph. What a surprise. They got there fast, too. And they just beat them up backstage, which is highlighted by Drew picking up Wilder and just kind of literally just slinging him into a crate, just throwing him like a sack of potatoes. And it looked really cool. So the Revival are out. The B team come out for their match. And after Revival's music plays for a bit, they obviously do not appear. And instead, Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler manifest themselves. And we've got ourselves a new tag team title match. And surprisingly, this match was more competitive than I expected. Though I guess that makes sense because even though the B team obviously did not plan to wrestle Drew and Dolph didn't plan to have a tag team title match either. So neither team were prepared for each other. So it kind of explains why the match would be a bit more back and forth than you would expect on paper. Nice showing from the B team, especially considering that they are, even though they win all their matches with dumb luck, they're still the champions. So it was nice to see them give a fighting effort, but it was not enough. Eventually, it was Axel falls victim to the Claymore zigzag combination, and we have new tag team champions, Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. We had to get here eventually. It's at least there was some sort of a payoff to this team. I've said before many times that I'd rather Drew be on his own, but at least they have accomplished something as a team, and it's always nice to see Drew with a championship. So I'm happy with this. They should make for a good heel mountain to climb. The only problem is that the Raw Tag Team division really has no viable face tag teams, no good guy teams, because the B team were the top good guy team and they were a comedy act. So outside of the Shield, particularly Rollins and Ambrose, who really could challenge them? That's not a joke in some way, because Titus Worldwide is a joke. Breezango's on hiatus because Fandango's injured. And then after that, I mean, Heath Slater, Rhino, they're jobbers. So after them, everyone's a heel. Like, all the best teams are heels. So, man, if only the Usos were on Raw. Just gonna put that out there. So, speaking of heel tag teams, we see the Authors of Pain come to the ring, and they're accompanied by Drake Maverick, who is the general manager of 205 Live, the former Rockstar Spud of TNA fame. And Drake is wearing the same outfit as the AOP, so he's like a scrawny AOP member, which is kind of dopey looking. I think it's kind of unnecessary. He could just wear a suit or something. But they come to the ring, and Drake announces that, yes, he is the general manager of 205 Live, but he is also the new manager of the Authors of Pain. That makes sense, actually, in terms of giving the Authors a new mouthpiece, because the reason that Paul Ellering, who was their manager in NXT, I would imagine he made his only main roster appearance the first night and then was ditched, presumably because he didn't want to, do the road schedule, because he's an old guy, probably doesn't want to be on the road all the time. So to find someone that is on the road all the time who can talk and isn't really, he's the GM of 205 Live, but he's not really like doing anything other than that. I could think of worse choices than Drake, and he, like I said, he's a great talker, and that's an interesting angle to have a general manager of one show also be the manager of a tag team on a different show. That's different. So always down to see something new. Curious to see where it goes, but the Authors have a match against two nameless jobbers. They quickly devour them, beat them with the Super Collider, which we don't see enough of on Raw, so it was nice to see it here. And yeah, and Drake also before the match stated that he is going to take them to the tag team championship. So do you do heel versus heel at some point? Depending on how long Drew and Dolph hold the belts, that could be a hell of a match. But we'll see. Let's see. We got the same video from last week of the various legends talking about who will win between Triple H and The Undertaker at the Super Showdown in Australia on October 6th. Nothing new there. The Bellas are backstage with Ronda Rousey. They suck up to her for a bit. Still planting seeds for the potential Nikki versus Ronda match. I feel like it kind of needs to take a step forward soon, hopefully next week, like a major step forward towards that match, because it's still a lot of nothing right now. Assuming that is what will happen, of course. This brings out Shawn Michaels, HBK. He is in the house, my all-time favorite wrestler, and he is here to talk about Triple H versus The Undertaker. And man, damn it, I still can't get behind his haircut. He's got the short hair. He was the last holdout, it feels like, from the long-haired guy era. Triple H shaved his head. Edge kind of has grown it back, but he cut his hair for a while. The Undertaker had his short hair period, though he has now since grown it back to its former greatness. But Shawn was always the one I was like, man, you gotta keep it. I just still not used to it. Don't like it. Sorry, Shawn, but I still love you. Anyway, he comes out, he shows his new t-shirt and the Super Show for a bit. And then he says that he's surprised listening to his fellow legends that so many of them picked Undertaker over Triple H. And that he, of course, he's like, obviously Triple H is my best friend of 20 years. So, you might think I'm going to pick him just because of that. But, he also says that he just frankly believes that Triple H has more in the tank than Undertaker, which honestly I would agree with. At least in terms of their recent performances, Triple H has consistently been better. Granted, he's younger and less beat up. So yeah, Shawn's not wrong on that, if we're being objective here. Of course, surprisingly, we hear a gong. And The Undertaker makes his appearance, which is a really cool surprise for the live crowd, especially these days. We're at the point now with Taker, as well as Shawn, though Shawn is retired, but you kind of, I tend to cherish every time Undertaker makes his appearance. Even though I wish he would have been stayed retired after WrestleMania 33, because nothing is ever gonna top that ending. What a great send off that was. So it mildly bugs me that he's still around. But still, you never know what Undertaker entrance is going to be his last one. So, I take them in and really, really relish the moment every time he shows up, including here. And he gets in the ring and he faces down Shawn, which is a cool moment that may not ever happen again after this. And he says that it's personal now, and accuses Shawn of choosing Triple H because of what happened at WrestleMania 26, which is when Shawn lost his retirement match against The Undertaker back when the streak was still alive. And he's like, you want to see your buddy beat me because I beat you. But the thing is that, you guys have been friends for 20 years. And during that time, both of you threw your best at me, and I put both of you down. And that in Australia at the Super Showdown, he is going to put Triple H down one more time. Shawn, and this turns into a weird but entertaining tangent where they focus less on Triple H versus Undertaker and more on Shawn and Undertaker's history, where Shawn goes into a thing saying that the reason that, saying how he stayed retired out of respect to The Undertaker and to fans and to his, to his word, and saying, how, a lot of guys or a lot of wrestlers will walk away, but then either 6 months or 6 weeks or 6 years later, they always come back, where he has been the only one that has stayed done. And, he says a big reason of that is because he respects The Undertaker, and that how hard it is for him to come back out, because the fans always chant one more match, and they started chanting one more match here as well. And every year at WrestleMania season, he's always approached with offers to come back and have a dream match against someone on the roster. And every year he has to turn down millions of dollars. And, that's hard for him, but he does it because he respects The Undertaker. The Undertaker accuses him of staying away, not out of respect, but out of fear, because he knows, or because Shawn knows, that if he were to come back, the first person he would go after would be The Undertaker. But he knows that The Undertaker would put him down again, just like he did 8 years ago. And Shawn is all like, and The Undertaker says that, he's going to do the same at Triple H. So, yeah, entertaining segment, but it's weird because this, again, kind of going back, like I said, about the kind of all over the place storytelling with the 3 shows. This feels like this story exists in its own kind of weird pocket dimension, where you're like, oh yeah, this other thing is happening too, that's on this other show that we're building towards this. So it's not even a main roster issue. This is this weird little capsule of the Attitude Era that's kind of taking place, and it's cool. Like I say, it's undeniably cool to see Shawn and Taker exchange words again, kind of have a heated moment. I loved it as a huge fan of both guys, but it's just it's weird. It's weird to have this other story going on that has nothing to do with anything on the show. It just exists in of itself. So and again, the match itself, I'm still not really looking forward to it. I mean, I'm looking forward to it just because it's like, hey, 2 of the best ever. Probably won't see it again after this. See them tied up one more time, but I doubt it's gonna live up to their last match, because how can it really? So it just kind of feels unnecessary. So I kind of have mixed feelings about that match. But well, Triple H will be back next week to respond. Sure. Well, whatever. Anyways, back to the current era. We have Baron Corbin, who comes in to see Finn Balor and says, "Hey, I'm too busy dealing with the Shield stuff. I'm on the phone with the police, so I can't wrestle you tonight in the main event. But you'll still have a match. It'll be against Braun Strowman instead." Sounds good to me. Finn and Braun have had pretty surprisingly good matches in the past, so cool beans. We get another Shield update from Mike Rome. He says that they are being charged with inciting a riot, disorderly conduct, and a couple other things. Sure. Inciting a riot. Okay. Anyway, so I kind of wish we could see this happening in the precinct. Like I would get a kick. Do we get mugshots of the Shield? That would be cool. I'm gonna release those, like like how Vince McMahon, when he got arrested a couple of years ago, and he had that hilarious mugshot. Let's get some Shield mugshots, or let's just see them terrorizing the police station. That'd be pretty cool. We have Sasha Banks versus Bayley, or Sasha Banks and Bayley, I should say. Don't be silly. Sasha Banks and Bayley are never gonna fight at this point. This story between them is going on for like a year now. They're taking on Dana Brooke and Ember Moon. And this was set up by Titus Worldwide because Dana lost to Sasha last week. So they're like, hey, we'll give you another shot, but maybe we'll give you a partner that's actually really, really good. The match itself is, uneventful until the end where Dana is, I think she's legal, and I think she's legal with Sasha. And Titus Worldwide, the whole match are kind of yelling, like coaching Dana, but they're also bickering among themselves. Like Apollo and Titus are kind of bickering about like the best advice to give Dana, basically. And then Dana eventually has enough and yells at them to shut the hell up, and that she's got it. Fortunately, she taking the time to do that causes her to get caught by Sasha or Bayley, one of the two, don't remember. But she gets pinned. And then after the match, Dana is frustrated, like Apollo and Titus trying to apologize, but she says that she's done with them and she storms off. So I don't know if this is the end of her involvement with Titus Worldwide, or if this is just kind of like like she's just mad at this particular moment. She doesn't really need to be with them at this point. The women's division could always use more depth. So having Dana go back full time, at least to me, would be cool. She'll just have to find something to make her stand out, because the roster, especially Ronda on top, is very deep in terms of talent. So we'll see. But she's, Dana's always had charisma, or a charisma about her, and again, she's an athletic freak. So with the right kind of the right push, maybe the right kind of character tweak, I think Dana will be just fine. So, also, it's kind of annoying that Ember Moon kind of is, she didn't get pinned, but she lost. And why is she part of this nothing match, taking a loss? But, I guess there was no other woman that you could really put out there that's good to eat it, at least that I can think of off the top of my head, who's not being used right now. That's in the women's division on Raw. I don't think there is anyone. Okay, well, whatever. Let's see. Bobby Lashley is chilling outside Baron Corbin's office, and Charlie Caruso comes up to interview him, and he's holding a piece of paper, and he informs her that it's a performance review, and that apparently Corbin has he decided that he needs to attend a mandatory meditation period with Jinder Mahal in the ring tonight. This brings us to that segment after the break, where they got a nice rug out there, and Jinder and Sunil Singh, what happened to his brother? What happened to, what was his name? It was Sunil and, the other brother's been gone so long, I think I forgot his name. See, oh my God, I'm really trying to remember. I feel like, I don't know why this is bothering me so much, I need to remember his name. Sunil and, oh man, well, his brother, I remember he hurt his ankle or something on SmackDown when he took a step or a fall. I remember watching it live thinking oh, he hurt himself. I feel like he should have been back by now, right? Is he not coming back? Or what's going on there? Anyways, weird tangent, but Singh and Mahal are sitting on their little rug, and Jinder's trying to get Bobby to cooperate. So like, hey, sit down with me, put this scarf on, and, repeat what I say. Lashley becomes a 5-year-old child and starts doing the kind of, the old, repeat what I say. And then he goes, repeat what I say. And then Jinder's like, no, not that. And then, no, not that. And I'm like, really? That's what you got Bobby Lashley doing, is like Looney Tunes-ish stuff, but not even funny like Looney Tunes? So it's actually, what it reminds me of now that I think about it? It's like early Roman Reigns, back when he first started getting his main event push of like, let's just have him say really goofy, funny stuff to endear him to the crowd, I guess. But it does not work well here. If nothing else, he delivered it a bit better than Roman did, but it's still weird to see Bobby Lashley, who is this legitimate fighting machine, kind of doing this stuff. But he's sitting down, he's making fun of the whole deal, and then eventually Kevin Owens comes from behind, out of nowhere, from his Canadian portal and attacks Bobby. Of course, you remember last week Kevin quit after losing his Intercontinental Championship match to Seth Rollins, but now he is back, beats the crap out of Lashley, and eventually hits the apron powerbomb to Bobby. So it looks like we're starting a feud, which I guess this makes sense because Bobby is the one responsible for injuring Sami Zayn. So that checks out logically for why Kevin will go after him. I just want to know why did he quit and why is he back? I guess we'll figure it out when he gets next week. What am I saying? I'm losing myself. So yeah, sure. Why not? Neither guy is really doing anything right now, and this makes sense. So, they announced next week, in addition to Triple H coming back next week, Mick Foley will return, I think, to also talk about the Triple H Undertaker match, and I believe it's an anniversary of the King of the Ring Hell in a Cell match between the two, so he'll be chatting about that. We get our final update on the Shield, and it is reported that they have posted bail and are now free men. They're probably not going to show up later or anything. Finn Balor and Braun Strowman in the main event. Dungeons and Dragons are at ringside, or Drew and Dolph, whatever you want to call them. And this is another good match between these two. These two work surprisingly well together because they tell that David versus Goliath story so well. Finn had a nice, consistent strategy where he kept going for submissions to try to, put him to sleep, because obviously he probably can't knock him out. So he kept going for sleepers, and he would keep reversing Strowman's power moves and get back into a sleeper. And then at one point, he even reverses another move and gets him in a triangle choke, which I've never seen Balor use before. But I like that he had a one consistent strategy that he kept going back to, but Braun would just, power his way out of things. But Balor hung in there and looked really good, but eventually, of course, Braun catches him, hits that power slam, and gets the 1, 2, 3. That's not enough, though, because after the match, they beat him up some more, hit another power slam. The three of them throw Balor outside, and they set up the steel stairs because they're going to do the Shield's triple powerbomb to Balor on the stairs, when all of a sudden we hear a police siren. Woo, woo, woo. And the police van that the Shield was taken away in pulls into the arena. And the Shield come out of it, of course. And it's kind of a cool shot where Roman is driving and he gets out and then he kind of pauses for a bit. And then he opens the back of the van and Ambrose and Rollins jump out. It's kind of like him unleashing the hounds, so to speak. So that was kind of cool. The only thing that I didn't dig as much was they do this and then the Shield music plays and they're on the ramp. And it's one of those things where you chalk up to yes, it's wrestling. And of course, as a wrestling fan, I know to suspend my disbelief on a lot of things. But it would have been cooler if, okay, so these guys post bail, get out of jail. I guess somewhere along the way they commandeer and steal the police van, which, of course is a crime. But, again, wrestling, you just got to go with it. But then to make it feel more real or raw, why not just have them come from the crowd, like without the music or anything, because you don't expect them. Like on paper, the production crew would not know if the Shield was back in the building. So guys, to make it more like a guerrilla warfare thing, like have them just show up and just attack them, like from the crowd. Maybe all three of them coming from different areas of the crowd to like really make it more wild. Or if you're gonna do the police van thing, just have them pull in there. Like don't even just have them show up and just rush the ring. Like don't do the music and all that stuff. I don't know, that's just my personal gripe. But before the Shield can even hit the ring, the entire heel roster comes out from behind and jumps them. And it becomes this giant just orgy of annihilation of the Shield where they just get picked apart by every heel on Raw, it seems. And like Roman takes a bunch of shots to the face from the steel steps by Braun. Ambrose is kind of up by the stage area, and he's getting beat up primarily by Drew. And then maybe the highlight was Rollins, who of course Dolph is targeting, which makes sense. Him and his batch of heels throw Rollins off the stage into the van, and his arm shatters one of the windows, which I'm not sure if that was planned or not, but Rollins' arm got really bloody after that because of that. And this beatdown goes on for a good while. It's a nice dissection where eventually a Roman gets power slammed on the floor by Braun, which looked painful as hell. And then eventually they drag all the Shield members to the base of the ring and kind of like just lay them there, kind of pile them out, and they're like surrounded by the heels. And the new trio of Braun, Dolph, and Drew kind of stand tall with tag titles. And that's how we wrap up the show. So, interesting build to Hell in a Cell. I would imagine that at the Cell now we'll get Drew. Well, I mean, you imagine Drew and Dolph maybe defend the titles against the Shield, or Ambrose and Rollins. But Dolph also still has his rematch clause for the Intercontinental Championship, so that could happen as well. But the B team also have a rematch clause. So does Dolph maybe do double duty where he gets his title shot at Seth, but also has to defend the titles, his tag titles against the B team at the Cell? Or maybe they could just do one of them next week. They didn't announce it, but it could always change, obviously. But this is interesting. I'm not sure if I like the idea of making Braun a heel, given that he is probably the most popular guy on Raw not named Seth Rollins, for the sake of kind of making Roman look better. It's not going to work because people are still cheering for him tonight, even though he was like blatantly trying to be a douchebag, like more of a douchebag at least, because he did like call out the fans and say like, if you like this or not, I don't care. So this will all be for naught if he doesn't win at Hell in a Cell, which he probably won't win, which sucks. But at this point, if he's going to do this, he needs to win. He's got to win. Just after a year of waiting, he's got to win at the Cell. But I have a very strong feeling that will not happen. And also, when did they do the 6-man tag? We've got, 2 weeks before the Cell? Something like that, 2 weeks? So somewhere along there has to be a 6-man tag. Will it be maybe the go home show, or will it be afterwards? But it should be a kick-ass match, like I said last week, like a 6-man with those 6. That's wow. So, but yeah, interesting story. This is not this whole Braun Roman thing is not going the way that I expected to. I did not expect Braun to turn heel and join the other two. So it's entertaining, and it's one of those shows. It's cool to see the villains kind of like run the show tonight. Kind of setting up the good guys to chase them for a while, which is always works in wrestling, especially when it's done well. And there's a lot of moving pieces right now, so definitely isn't a dull time. Maybe, again, things are a bit, their attention is a bit divided with the 3 shows. One of these shows needs to hurry up and go, which will be the Super Show, because that's the soonest one, because that's October 6th. Or no, actually, no, the Cell is the first one. So the Cell comes first, then the Super Show, then Evolution. So, and then also I was gonna. There's like it's the Mae Young Classic, but that's on the network. That doesn't count. But yeah, those three shows. One of them needs to just hurry up and happen to kind of make things a bit more focused on Raw right now. But I can't complain about having multiple things to focus on. At least things are happening that are mostly intriguing. So that's Monday Night Raw, everyone. So thanks for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with my SmackDown Live review. Once again, like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate it. And until next time, thanks for listening. Have a good day.